Hello everyone, Marcel here, today with a video that's supposed to be the presentation of the project. The idea is that I made the PDF presenting the game before I even started to make it last year, and it was supposed to be just for me to have an idea what I want to achieve with it, but I remade it a little and I'm gonna use it to show what I'm making here. The reason why I'm making this video is because I've noticed that my latest video of University is Hell is getting some views lately. I think that's because people are stumbling on my short series and they want to learn more about the game. So I figured a video like that presenting the whole idea wouldn't hurt. Two quick disclaimers before I go further is that I used AI generated images here and there in this PDF presentation, but they won't be in the game itself, and it was just to make it faster so I wouldn't want and wouldn't need to make these images myself. And secondly, it's my first video where I'm making it in one go and I'm not gonna edit anything. So in advance, I apologize for any stutters or mispronunciations or any other mistakes. Okay, so let's start with basically the idea for the game. And that is to create an open world 2D game using Unity, which is happening during the Deluge, where Sweden attacked Poland, and how the main character fought against it, but also to present his own story with the war being the background for it. The original idea for this game, it was supposed to be in 3D, but there were factors like my potato PC not having 3D dimensional Blender or Unity 3D that well, and I also had some burnout issues, and ultimately I decided to shift focus and move to a 2D game, and it's been working much better for me. So a quick timeline here. I released my first game in August of 2025. Then I took like a break until the end of August. In September, I started getting ideas for the Deluge game. Then between October and December, like until Christmas, maybe, I was developing the game in 3D. I had like movement and basic combat animations done. It was going pretty slow, and I felt like it's not going well. So after Christmas, I started wondering how I could make it in 2D instead. And in this year, I started on the 1st January working on a 2D version of the game. Next up, inspirations for the game. Firstly, we have Witcher, which is one of the best games of all time. The whole series is Polish, just like my game. The atmosphere of the game, the world, the dialogues, everything is just top notch in the industry, and the whole atmosphere I would really like to capture in the game. It's the hardest thing to do from the inspirations, but I really want to capture something similar to The Witcher in this game. Next up, the mechanics for the combat are inspired by two games. One is the Arkham franchise, Batman Arkham City, Arkham Knight, Arkham Asylum, and the second game is, I didn't put it here now I see, but Middle-earth Shadow of War / Mordor. So I prefer simple combat systems, and I really like the counters and the combo, and it's simple but so fun in these games, and I'm aiming to do something like that in my game. And next up, probably the game that directly inspired me to do this one, because I got the idea for making this game after playing Ghost of Tsushima 2024. I ultimately decided that I wouldn't make this game as my first game because I wanted some experience with Unity. So first I made University's Hell, and then I started working on the Deluge game. Similarly, like there, the war is the background for the main character's story. There's different things that the story focuses on. There it was honor, and in my case it's gonna be like revenge and guilt of the main character. And last but not least, Hades. Uh, so when I was struggling in December, especially feeling kind of hopeless by how the 3D version was going to go on, I played Hades, and then I got an idea. I can make it 2D, but like make it look like kind of 3D in 2D, if that makes sense, like 2.5D. Um, so Hades is extremely pretty, and the whole artwork is inspired by it, but I want to have it my own feel to it and my own identity. So I don't want to copy Hades' style because I can't. I can only make something that's my own. Next up, we have the setting of the game, and that's the Deluge period. It's between 1655 and 1616 Poland. It's one of the most destructive wars in Polish history. Some sources say that a third of Poland's population died, and some even say up to 40%. And it's, I think, the second most harmful war to the Poland history after the World Wars. And not directly, but it was one of the reasons, long-term reasons, of Poland becoming weaker and ultimately losing independence for 123 years. I won't present the whole war here because it's not the focus. As I previously said, it will only be the background to the main character's journey. And looking at the YouTube videos of how it went up after the initial period where the Swedish really rapidly took over the Polish terrains, there was a lot of back and forth. So I kind of reread history, and I think I will end it like something somewhere in 1656, but it won't be like 100% how the real war was going on. So it's an inspiration. Initially, it will be following the real history, but then it will kind of drift apart to fit my own narrative. Next up, we have the map. It's a map of Europe I made some time ago just to have it if I needed to know what's where. On the right, you see the fragment of the map that's gonna be in the game itself. So, from the large Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth terrains, we only focus on the more western side and above the Wisła River. Initially the south of the country, and in the later arcs we would also move more north with cities like Warszawa or Poznań. The story itself is gonna be divided into 3 arcs. The first arc will be the fastest one, I think. It would show the rapid losses of Poland and how the Swedish army was worthless. We would have the main character lose his family, his 2 sons, his daughter, and his wife. Then he would fail to avenge them, Ultimately, he would escape enemy prison and join the defense of Krakow, where he would also fail to kill the same enemy general that killed his wife. So he failed to avenge them twice in the first arc. That would really push his guilt and his hatred for the Swedes even more. The second arc is gonna be about the Poland turning the tide on Sweden. The most critical moment would be the defense of Jasna Góra in Częstochowa. This is actually not historically correct because it is something of a fantasy, because in reality the defense of Jasna Góra wasn't that grand because there weren't many Swedes there, they just weren't that interested, but it was like promoted to motivate the Polish people while they were independent by yeah, by some book author I will mention it later. Also, the war tactics of one known Stefan Czarniecki, rapid and fast attacks would really fit quick, short missions where you attack Swedes and then fall back. So you would just like defend Jasna Góra, then get some of the land back. In the third act, you would push the Swedish up north. Ultimately, it would end with taking back Warsaw, and the final fight would be against the general, and the main character would kill him, avenging his family. I didn't decide yet what would happen to the main character at the end. I have two ideas in mind. I won't say them here. The war wouldn't end, but the main character's story would, right there and there. So here's the original slide I made with the characters I planned initially, but I didn't like it right now, so I made every character an individual slide. Starting with the main character, I already said quite a while that he failed to avenge his family, then he was driven by revenge and guilt to just kill as much Swedes as possible. And ultimately he would like avenge his family in the final arc, and then it's a matter of what happens to him that I haven't decided yet. Next up we have Stefan Czarniecki, as previously mentioned. He was one of the most famous commanders during the war. I would use him as like the mentor for the main character, and how he would like guide them, and he would be just the general for the Polish armies, and he would be an important character to the story. Next up we have Janusz and Bogusław Radziwiłł. This is like a really big rewriting of the history, because originally they were two magnates who sold out Poland and kind of disbanded the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. I will say more about that later on, and I rewrote history just to have them as the final bosses of the second story arc. Why? Because I think it's gonna be worth it. And if I really strictly stayed true to the real history, I don't think it would be that interesting. Next we have Andrzej Kmicic, that's the book I mentioned earlier, and the author. Henryk Sienkiewicz wrote Potop, the Deluge in English. It's not a very historical book because it was written to motivate the Polish people during hard times for the country. And Andrzej Kmicic is the main character of that book. I won't make him a very important character in the game. I will just want to make him a small cameo. And then he will like just be there but not be presented much. Maybe just like one time before the final battle too, when the main character would meet all his allies too, but he won't be a very much important character. Next we have the Polish king during the invasion. He would be portrayed as rather weak and that his leadership wasn't very good, and it ultimately led to the whole war going so bad for the country. The main character would like blame him and dislike him openly. If they met, he wouldn't be that much important. He would rather be like a coward that stays back while his armies do the actual fighting. Next, we have a character I didn't really give much thought to yet because I didn't write that much into the story. I just have the general ideas. He would be the main character's childhood friend. He would suffer a similar fate to him, that his family would get kidnapped during the chaos of the war. But unlike the main character, he could save them, and he would have like a number of missions doing so. And it would drive the guilt of the main character even more by like thinking, oh, he can save his family, but you don't. Something like that. Next, we have another minor character, the nun. The protagonist would meet her in Krakow. This would be just to show that not only warriors or knights or anything like that would be important in times of war. She would maybe have like rescue missions or stealing from the Swedish to help children or the poor. I think I will also use her to introduce one of the activities in the game in the first arc, but she won't be that much important. Next, we have the enemy general I mentioned earlier, Arvid Wittenberg. He led one of the major forces during the early stages of the invasion, and in the game he would also attack the protagonist's estate and would kill his two sons and his daughter and his wife. And because of the hatred for him, that main character blah, 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 sorry, the hatred that the main character would have for him, ultimately that will be the final boss of the third arc. Next, we have Augustin Kordecki, who was the leader of the defense of Jasna Góra I mentioned earlier. He would be important during the second arc, and in the third arc, maybe he would still be there, but he would like stay behind in Częstochowa while the rest of the Poland armies would move north to reclaim the rest of the country. I didn't specify what he would do exactly yet, but I know he is gonna be quite important later on in the second arc. Next, we have a guy I like for now called Mr. Drunky. He would be the most stereotypic like Polish szlachcic. Szlachta is Polish nobility, and he would be like an alcoholic, quarrelsome, and like initially the main character would hate him, and like he would associate with him with all the bad things about Szlachta, which was like not really. They were like all drunks and they weren't the role models they should be. But over time he would go on a personal transformation, and in the latest parts of the game he would be an important ally. He would give up alcohol, and he would also work very hard to reclaim their country. And lastly, we have main character's wife. You may think, what, she's dead. You like killed her in the first 50 minutes of the game. Yeah, because she wouldn't actually be there. It'd be the main character's guilt that would make him have sort of PTSD about her. In various moments, her like ghost would pop out and say things to the main character that would really be his guilt talking. In the final moment of the story, after the main character has killed Arvid Wittenberg, she would appear for the last time, kissing him and forgiving him. So it would symbolize the protagonist forgiving himself. Uh, Next up, we have what I already talked so much about the main character's development that I will skip this slide. If you want, you can read it. Next, the side content about for the main story. So firstly, we have garrisons inspired by Ghost of Tsushima, so pretty straightforward. A bunch of enemies, you go in, kill them all, maybe reclaims or something, and liberate the place. Next, we have artifacts, so like form of collectibles, and I thought a cool idea would be to have historically stolen things by the Swedish armies. So again, a bit of rewriting history, but I think it's not a real big issue. Next up, we have shrines. So all across the game, you would have different shrines, and the idea is that the main character would say a different prayer at every different one shrine. Next up is something I don't know if I will make, because it will be quite hard. That's folk legends. It would be like in villages to show the difference between cities and villages. It's not really realistic, I think, but I may decided to do it, but I will give it thought. It's a cool idea, but cool concept, but I don't know if I will do it. And I see some other smaller stuff, but I don't want meaningless quests like go there, bring this back. If I will add something else, it would need to add some value. Yeah. So next up we have this. I already said like Christianity versus paganism. So like the bigger cities would be Christian, and the villagers would be like more loyal to their original ancestors. But that's already the period where I think Christianity was like the vast majority, even in the villages. So that wouldn't be very realistic. That's just a cool idea I had. So again, I don't know if I will do it. I may not. I will give it some thought later. Next up, we have mechanics. Already said it's gonna be inspired by the Arkham style gameplay. So counters, dodges, combos. The main idea is that the player has to deal with two types of attacks. That's one counterable and one not. And he would tell them apart by two different indicators you can see on the screen. Yeah, and other functionalities like executions, maybe throwing knives, something like that, I will add at a later stage after the main core of the combat system is there. Next up, the quest structure quickly. Like linear no choices is already gonna take a very long time to finish the game as it is, so there won't be any choices in the game. It's like straightforward. Next, we have the skill system or something like that. I prefer minimal or simple leveling systems, so not many options, and if they will be, I want them to be meaningful and not like filler options. I really loved the skill tree in Middle Earth, Shadow of Mordor, or Batman Arkham Asylum, so that's something I will aim for. Next up, we have factions. First, we have the Szlachta. I already said alcoholics and not very patriotic, caring more for themselves. They even gave part of the country without a fight. And next, we have the poor. They would only like look to survive. And the commoners like would be something in between. Other factions like the Lithuanians, I don't know if I will present them that much. Of course the Swedish too, another, but they will be like enemies, so they won't be like much dialogues between them. And here we have Poland versus Lithuania. As I said, Radziwiłł sold out to the Swedish. It's not black and white because Poland didn't help Lithuania in war with Russia. The whole period was very complicated for both Poles and Lithuanians. But the idea of the game when I designed it was to focus on the Poles, and if I will have Lithuanians, it will be some smaller plot during the second arc with the Radziwiłł star. Next we have the art style. I already said it's inspired by Hades. Here we have an example of how it would look. Of course it still could use improvement, but that's the basic idea for it. Something like that, like in the image. Next, the last few things, music and voice acting. That's not something I give much thought yet because that depends in a vast option of like how the game will, if it will become popular or not. If it would, I could start like a Patreon and pay someone to make soundtrack. If not, then you have like AI generated options or finding free music online. But that's all down the road, so I'm not giving it much thought yet. And lastly, I have languages. I'm planning Polish and English, ideally for both voice acting and dialogues, but I don't know how this would go out. But just like with voice acting, that's the general idea. So that was all I wanted to talk about today. 28 minutes. That's like around what I planned. If you have any other questions, I would be glad to answer in the comments. If you're interested in this project, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and share so maybe more people see what I'm trying to create here. And thank you for everyone that's already supporting the project, and I hope you stay with me in the future. Thanks and bye.